Sir, recently Charles Soludo said that you did not leave any tangible legacy in your state. Can I ask you to explain why Mr. Soludo is wrong?
If I want people to ask me what did you do in Anambra State, I said I brought civility and order in government and governance. At least I brought an ordered behavior. You see, often at time, people looking for physical infrastructure as a model. No. There's a difference between even people having what you call ordered behavior.
So inculcating a culture.
A culture of ordered behavior, a pattern, a discipline. And people can say, this man is doing the right thing. I brought an ordered behavior to the governance. If that is the only thing, the rest let the people judge. What happened in education? We were number 24 when I started. When I left for 3 years, we were number 1. But in work and Neko. So what else? Maybe people were expecting me to build a twin tower. No, that is not what is required now. What is required now in Nigeria is to bring civility and order and to do things in a structured manner that we can build a better place. What is the most important thing? Education. Why are we celebrating Asian countries? The reason why we are celebrating Asian countries are in the 70s and 80s, while they were busy educating their people, we were busy picnicking and celebrating and dancing. And suddenly now, if you go, even if you go to schools, the so-called Ivy League schools in America and everything, they've taken it over. Kellogg was founded by a famous man, Kellogg Graduate School. By the time he finished, after spending 57 years there, the next person that he handed over was an Indian. Why is India powering today? Because of ICT. And what is ICT? Education. So I invested in education. That is the most critical legacy anybody can leave.
Part of the criticism was that you left too much money in the coffers at a time when he believed that there was actually things you could do with that money.
No. Let me tell you. Development has a pattern and time. As a governor, when I started, there was no planning in the states. I set up Ministry of Planning. Before I became governor, if you come from Asaba to Onitsha, it is like somebody who went from heaven to hell. And if you move from Onitsha to Asaba, it's like somebody who went from hell to heaven. Today, I've been able to come into Onitsha and build a 10-lane up to 6 roundabout. In Mpo, where there's the biggest congestion, I work with federal government into building a flyover there. Because one of the things I was doing, when people say I left too much money, is that where I think things are critical for me, rather than go and spend the limited resources of the state, I try to look for federal government, development partners, assistance in other areas. What we did in terms of the money we left, if you're operating with the depleting assets, you must save for the future. And I'll give you an example. Somebody told me yesterday, said, the foreign currency component of your saving is about $170 million, which is like about 40 billion. Which state in Nigeria can say they have 40 billion?
Well, to start with, there was no order made by the court deregistering NDC. What the court said is that we should go back to full trial. And while we disagree with the entirety of the judgment, we maintain that there is no order made by the court today directing that NDC be deregistered. And until that order is made, NDC remains registered and will continue to carry out its functions as a political party.
Do you see how that's confusing? Because the court in December of 2025 compelled INEC to register you as a political party. Now the judge, the same court, has come to say, for certain reasons, including suppressing facts and for lack of fair hearing, that judgment is a nullity. So on what basis is the NDC still existing is the question?
We were registered. In fact, we're not just registered. The original and substantive judgment of the court was that we were deemed to have been registered by INEC. Deemed registered. In fact, if you read the entirety of that judgment, a lot of consequential orders were made that made it look like we were actually registered by INEC from when we actually applied. INEC had a duty to register us, refused for no justification to register us after we had met all the requirements for registration. That is what drove us to court. And the court held that when INEC, in the course of hearing, admitted that the only reason for which they had refused to register us, which was that our logo resembled that of APC, not Peace Mass Move Party, whatever. The letter they wrote to us, and on the basis of which we went to court, stated that our logo resembled that of APC, All Progressives Congress. That is why we went to court. And that is why it was not necessary at the time we went to court to join any other party other than INEC. In fact, if we had any reason to have joined anybody at that stage, it would have been APC itself, because the reason for not refusing to register us was that our logo resembled that of APC, not a non-existing PMP. Now, it was only when we got to court, after we had filed and served our originating summons, that INEC, in their response to our originating summons, mentioned the name PMP, stating that our logo looked like that of PMP. It is a fundamental principle of law that you cannot reprobate and approbate. If you had given one reason for refusing to register NDC, and for which we had gone to court, the moment you abandoned that reason in the course of the trial, and actually admitted before the court that that reason you gave originally did not actually exist, you had conceded to that judgment. And so we had no reason from the beginning to have joined PMP. Now, basically, when they raised PMP as a reason, a new reason for which we were never told, our response was very simple. One, as at the time we went to court, there were 18 registered political parties. PMP was not one of them. Two, 171 political associations applied to be registered as political parties. PMP was not one of them. So there was no reason for you to use a non-existing PMP as a justification for not wanting to register us.
Okay.
In fact, during the course of the hearing, the judge asked, first, does INEC now admit that our logo does not look like that of APC? INEC said yes. Now, is PMP a registered political party? INEC said no. Is PMP one of the 171 that applied for registration? INEC said no. One would then wonder, if PMP was not one of the registered political associations during that registration process, in what way were their rights breached?